Okay, so we're talking about the excursion for the interest on a car loan. So you borrow $10,000 for a car at an annual interest rate of 5%. They tell you the amount of the payment, and we're trying to figure out for each payment of $230.29 how much goes to interest and how much goes to taking down the principal. And so here's the calculation. And there's two ways to think about this, and getting the two ideas mixed together has caused a little bit of confusion sometimes. So in your first month, at the end of the first month, the interest that you pay is the original 10,000 times, the way they're doing it here in the book is they're taking the monthly rate times the number of months. Okay, now I generally prefer to keep the time in years and keep the rates in annual rates all the time. So I could do it their way. I could say $10,000, that's the principal. And then for my rate, I'd have the 0.05 over 12. And this would be monthly rate. And then times the time. I'm trying to figure out how much interest was owed for the first month, the amount of time that passed. The elapsed time is 1 month. So okay, so I could do that. I could also say I equals PRT. My interest rate is 5%. It's an annual rate. And so then I put the time in years. And a month is 1/12 of a year. So if I'm going to keep it as an annual rate, I do the time in months, in years. Or if I'm going to do a monthly rate, I put the time in months. And you can see the arithmetic's going to work out the same either way. All right. So there's the next little thing. You probably didn't even notice this, but there's a little bit of an issue. You see, if I do 10,000 times 0.05 over 12, okay, so let me get my calculator and do that. Oops. Take my $10,000 times. You don't round off the 0.05 over 12. You know, if you work out the interest rate and then round it off, that's not the right thing to do. What you do is you go ahead and you finish out the multiplication. You do the 10,000 times 0.05 over 12. You get the final number. So here's how much interest you owed. It's $41.666666. Okay. And at that point, that's when the bank would round it off to say, okay, you owe $41.67. Okay. So that's why it's a squiggly equal right here, $41.67. Okay. So here's your, well, so in the book, they go ahead and they do the first month for you, and they do the second month. So they say after 2 months, you owe $9,811.38. Okay. And then they come down here and they have these questions, and they want to know, in the first question, how much interest do you owe for the third month? Okay. So here was your balance after the second payment. Your nominal interest rate, annual rate, your nominal monthly rate, keep all those digits, the sixes repeating. The interest you owed in month 3, you take the balance at the beginning of month 3, that's the $9,621.97. You multiply that interest rate with all of its digits. You get a number with a long decimal, but you round it off to the nearest cent. And then that's the interest that you owe for month 3. They've told you the amount of the payment, $230.29. So how much principal did you pay at the end of month 3? Okay, you take your 230.29 and you subtract. Some of that payment was interest. You subtract and you get whatever you get. Okay. So get my calculator over here. So I'll do my 230.29 minus 40.09. And I get $190.20. So that's out of this $230.29 that you paid. $40.09 was for interest, and $190.20 went to reducing your balance. So what's the balance remaining? It's that $92.61, $96.21 minus the $190.20. So I think you get $94.31.77 if I didn't mess up the subtraction. So that's how you do it. Now, I want to show you how to do that with a spreadsheet. Because spreadsheets make things just a whole lot more convenient. You don't have to do all that arithmetic or typing in calculators. So I just did a little editing and I put in my principal and my interest rate and the amount of the monthly payment. So for my monthly interest rate, take the annual divided by 12. And internally, the software is keeping many, many digits. okay? Now, so for my interest paid in the first month, let's say equals, to make a formula, I want to take the amount I owed at the previous month, and I want to multiply, use the asterisk to multiply. I'm going to multiply by that monthly rate. So that's the interest that I paid. And I want to make sure when I copy and paste that it stays with this exact position, C5. You know, it's when you copy and paste in Excel, it changes the formula. It does relative position. It wouldn't do C5 if I copied and pasted, unless I put the dollar sign there. And what that dollar sign does is it means keep it really C5 when you copy and paste. So there's my interest paid. And now internally, you see, it's keeping lots and lots of digits. And normally, if you're doing like a physics calculation or something, that's exactly what you want. But for the banks, it's not, because they can't charge you a fraction of a cent in interest. And so I have to modify my formula to round that number off. To just 2 digits. It's not just the display. Oops, I'm doing the wrong button there. What I'm trying to say is, if I show more digits, see, because I used the rounding formula, now when I show more digits, it's all 0. If I didn't use the rounding formula, see, if I just multiply straight without the rounding, then internally the software is going to keep all those digits. It's going to keep them regardless how I adjust the display. Internally, the digits are still there. But I don't want that because the bank doesn't actually charge me a fractional amount of interest. So I internally, not just the display, I want it to round off to the nearest cent. And so I put the rounding into the formula. And so now it's really the exactly 4167. Okay. Trying to get my alignment right there. Okay. So when I said I was going to demonstrate this in more detail than you could possibly want, well, that's it. There's the rounding thing. But I want to show you how that makes a difference. Okay. So now the principal paid. I'm going to take whatever principal I owed at the previous step, subtract the interest paid. That's how much of the payment went to principal. And then to get the balance, I'm going to take whatever the balance was at the previous step and subtract what you paid, the principal you paid. And I did the wrong thing here. I'm going to take the balance minus 4167. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm doing totally the wrong thing. I want to take the amount of the payment. I paid $230.29. Okay. The amount of the payment. minus the interest. There we go. Okay. So the payment was $230.29. Take away the amount of that was interest, and I get the amount of principal that I paid. And then to get the new balance, it's the previous balance minus the principal paid. So the advantage of doing it in a spreadsheet is then you just drag it down and it'll copy and paste into the rows below. And so you can get those numbers, for all the months. And this thing is called an amortization table. All right, so going to the questions in the assignment. Find the amount of interest you owe for the third month. I just came down to, well, let me just delete these for now. So to get question 1, find the amount of interest you owe for the third month. Come over here, month 3, amount of interest, $40.09. And then for question 2, how much of your payment goes to reducing the principal in the third month? $189.41 went to reducing the principal. Question 3, how much do you owe after making the payment? So I come over here. No, wait, this was supposed to be the third month. Month 3. Sorry. Okay. Third month principal owed after making the payment. $94.31. Question 4, the amount of money I owe for interest in the fourth month, or at the end of the fourth month, you were paying the interest for that fourth month. How much was that? It was $39.30. It's a little bit less than it was the month before because the principal was a little bit less. Question 5, how much of your payment goes towards reducing the principal in the fourth month? What did you pay towards the principal in the fourth month? Fourth month, principal paid $190.99. Okay. How much principal remains after that payment in the fourth month? And then we come to question 7. Okay. Now, question 7, I'll show you how they had in mind for you to do it. And then I want to talk about some issues. But let's blow this up real big. Highlight it over here. So there's the question 7 over here. So your last payment, if it's a 4-year loan, and if the $239.29 was just exactly the right payment to make it finish in 4 years after 48 months. So at the end of your 48th payment, your balance comes to exactly 0. what would that last payment include? It would be what was the remaining balance at the beginning of that last month, plus the interest on that balance. So the $230.29 would include the remaining balance on the loan, plus the interest due on the remaining balance. $239 that you pay for your very last payment includes the balance plus the interest on the balance. So it equals that remaining balance at the last month. Isn't that what they're asking us to find? They want us to figure out, find the remaining balance on the loan at the last payment. That's what we want to find out. It's that balance plus the interest on the balance. So how could I possibly know the interest on the balance if I don't know the balance? You don't have to know the balance. The whole point of algebra is when you don't know it, you use a placeholder to stand for it. The interest on the balance is this nominal monthly rate times the balance. So you've got 1 times x plus 0.05 over 12 times x. So how do I work out the x? You see, I just divide both sides by that 1.0041666. And that's the balance remaining. So how much is it? I'm going to do this in the spreadsheet. I'm going to do 230.29 divided by, and all the parentheses matter. So I want the 0.05 over 12 to be worked out. That's the 0.00416666. But don't type that in and don't round it off. You just put it in here just the way it is, and then you'll get an exact calculation. Okay. I just say enter. And there's my remaining balance. And the bank only deals in whole numbers of cents. So they'll keep all those digits while they do the intermediate calculations, but whenever they come to an actual amount of money that they have to tell you, okay, this is what you owed, they have to round that off at the end. So that's the balance, $229.33. But that's the answer they wanted. But it assumes that this payment of $230.29 would be the right amount of payment to exactly cancel your loan at the end of 48 months. And it's not. Because when they told you how much you have to pay each month, they had to round it off. There are more decimals. There's not 230.29. There's more digits. And because of that, when you come down to the end, you're a little bit short. So I want to drag down in my spreadsheet to see where we end up. You know, by the 45th month, we're getting there. Balance of $911.82. So the interest, I just multiplied by that nominal monthly rate and then rounded off to a whole number. See, I just calculated $229.33 was what was due. But it's not. We came up a little bit short. If you get rid of the rounding over here on the monthly payments, I mean the interest payments, that does not solve the problem. I tried it. Because some of those rounded up and some of those rounded down, and by the end it didn't really matter. A couple of cents. But it does not get you to the $229.33. That's because this original monthly payment, the $230.29, that was rounded off, and that affected everything all the way down, and it always affected it in the same direction. Always the payment was just a little less than it should have been. And that's why you owe a little more, $229.52. I know you're saying, who cares? But, well, you know, there was this scheme. Somebody actually went to jail over this, but with stock trading, the software engineers who are keeping track of the accounting for like millions of transactions per year somehow arranged for all the fractions of the cents to end up in their accounts, and nobody noticed for a long time, and it amounted to a lot of money, and then they went to jail. I don't know. Anyway, so if you take everything into account, really, I think the book's answer with they wanted it to just be a simple algebra problem, and the way they worded it, you know, okay, that's the answer to the question they presented. but a slightly more accurate answer would be here. So, so then what would be the interest due during that last month? It's 96 cents. If your payment that you agreed to was $230.29. So you take that payment minus the 96 cents. And so this much of your payment went to the principal. And what that means is you still owed them 19 cents at the end. They're not going to just let that go. So what's your last payment really? It's the balance on the last payment plus the interest plus whatever's left. So often the terms of your loan will mention that the last payment's slightly different. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording. That's all for this topic. But I want to see if you guys had questions about it.